And when some of these things were brought up to me, I became very troubled by a lot of it. I was like, wait, what? I'd never heard about it, and it became very troubling to me. And it was crazy how quickly and confused and spiritually conflicted I became. Like, it's crazy how fast that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And despite all the miracles I had experienced and all the evidences of God's hand in my life, I mean, I just forgot all of that. And it was just like, what, wait, what is this? And I put it under the rug, I think, for a while because I was a missionary and I didn't really have time to be questioning things at that point.
If you've ever wondered why we do ads on the podcast, it's because the revenue that we get from ads helps us keep the podcast alive and keep the podcast going. So we have decided that we are only going to do advertising for those who we just fully support and love. And one of those people is Mike from Mike's Auto Shack. You guys, I cannot tell you how amazing Mike is. He is the most genuine human being. He has been buying cars for people for over 28 years. It doesn't matter if you live in Florida, Texas, Utah, California. Mike will get you a car from your local auction. And so you don't have to travel too far to pick it up. And he only buys cars with a full factory warranty. So go register on his website, mikesautoshack.com. People on our team have personally purchased cars from Mike, and we just love him, and we love how much he loves the podcast. So go buy a car from Mike. Okay, Cade, it's so nice to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So excited to have you. So tell us a little bit about you. You said you live in Brigham City.
Yes, so my wife and I, we live in Brigham City. We just moved from Logan a couple months ago, actually. So it's kind of a new little chapter for us, but yeah, it's been good.
Okay, well, let's jump into your story.
Sure. Um, let's see. I think if we're going back to when I was younger, which is kind of where this all started, I was around 11 years old, and I always had grown up in Utah. I'm actually from the Utah County area. So like Cedar Hills, if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we grew up, and come from a little family of four. So it's just my parents and me, myself, and my older sister. And when I was around 11, like I was saying, my little family had actually stepped away from the church. And my mom, bless her heart, was actually the only one still going at that point. Everyone would stay home, mom would go to church, and that just kind of became normal. And she was pretty quiet about it. She wasn't like the type to ask me if I wanted to come with her every week or anything like that. She just kind of did it for her, is what I felt. And that just became the new norm. I mean, most kids can probably relate and would do the same. If mom and dad aren't making you go to church, it's not like you're going to
Yeah,
pull on her skirt while she's leaving to try and go.
right.
Um, yeah. And I guess from there, I just kind of naturally drifted away from the gospel, if you could say. And I just remember kind of my feelings about it were everything that involved going to church or being involved with it was just uninteresting to me and intimidating, honestly. And yeah, things like going to church or mutual, people from the ward were always knocking on my door asking if I wanted to go to whatever activity they were doing. And I would always just make something up like, sorry, my mom needs me for something, or I got homework, or all the things, anything. Um, and yeah, especially things like a mission. Growing up in Utah, everybody's pretty much a member of the church, and everybody just kind of, once high school's over, it's just what you do. You go on a mission, and secretly, it was never in my plans. I mean, I had no interest to do that. I had no interest with anything in the church, really. And I mean, yeah, my life was basically just football, hanging out with friends, and making some bad decisions in between. And that was kind of it for me. And for years, that's just kind of how life was. Probably like 6 or so years later, my sister had her own little come to Jesus moment. And she was on quite a different path before that. So we were all pretty surprised what had happened. Long story short, she decided that she wanted to serve a mission. And we were all pretty confused where that came from. And yeah, I just remember being like, wait, well, what are you talking about? And all growing up, her and I were not close at all. And I think she would agree. It's just kind of the way it was between us. And she didn't know this, but through her little faith journey, um, I was watching her very closely. I was just, I guess, really deeply curious at what had changed her, like so drastically and so fast. So fast forward, and I was now sitting in her mission farewell. So probably about 17 years old. I think I was like a junior in high school. And it was my first time back in the chapel, and who knows how long it had been, some time though. And I just remember looking at her up there, and she was about to get up and speak, and I was just like, is she seriously doing this? Like, where did this come from? Nobody from home is making her or influencing this at all. Like, where did this come from? And we weren't close, so we didn't like ever talk about it or anything. I was just kind of there, you know?
Hmm.
And then she got up there to speak, and hearing her testimony of the Savior's atonement and how she came to know him really moved me. Like, I still remember that. And I just remember feeling something in that meeting that I'd never felt before in my entire life. It was like this missing piece that I had never experienced before. And I just remember it was like this undeniable warmth and this confirmation of truth in my mind and in my heart of the things that she was talking about. And it was really interesting to me. And then to top it off, as if that wasn't enough for the day, someone decided to get up there and sing a beautiful song called I Need Thee Every Hour. And I had never heard it until that day. And I just remember I lost it and I just started to cry. And I think it was because I realized then and there that this whole God thing was real and that I needed him in my life. And nobody saw me crying. And I didn't tell anybody about this experience that I'd had. And yeah, I was super sly about it. I remember like trying to wipe away my tears and stuff. I didn't want anyone to know. And then life just kind of went on as usual from there. I mean, I didn't act on anything from that day or anything like that. And life just kind of went on as usual. But yeah, she went on her mission, and I'll never forget saying goodbye to her. Maybe it was just because it was like the first time in my life that I'd ever really said goodbye to someone like that before. But I just remember being shook up a bit because I was finally realizing it. I think it was finally hitting me that she was leaving everything behind. And with, like I said, zero pressure from home and zero, I guess, outside influence. And she's just going all the way to the Philippines for 18 months of her life to share the gospel and serve people there. And that moved me. And while she was on her mission, we started to get pretty close for the first time ever. And she would write me little letters here and there, giving me invitations. She would be sly about sliding stuff in there to me. I just remember one specific one that she said was to read the Book of Mormon if you ever have a free second, or to try going back to church one of these Sundays. And I, man, although I did want more of that feeling I felt at her farewell, I was just terrified. Like to go back on my own as like a teenager where I was pretty shy and insecure and all the things, you know. And I just didn't have any friends or know anybody in the ward. And those were big stumbling blocks for me. Like, I think they would be for most people, actually. And it honestly would have taken like a miracle to get me back and to go on my own like that. But after my little experience at her farewell, I did want to give it a try. So every Saturday night for months, I mean, several months, I set an alarm Saturday night intending to go to church the next morning. But when the alarm would go off, just autopilot fear or whatever would kick in. I just click snooze. Oh, we'll go next week. And that just went on and on and on. And then another miracle happened. I think God was just giving me as much as I could chew on, little by little. My parents had actually grounded me for having poor grades. That was kind of the story of my life as well. So that kind of looked like no phone and no hanging out with friends or anything like that. And so I found myself staring at a wall in my room out of boredom, and out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a dusty old Book of Mormon that had been sitting on my nightstand. And I still kept the copy today because it's pretty special to me, but it must have just still been there from when I was a kid. I was not saying it's just like a miracle proof it appeared there and read it, you know. I think it was just there from when I was a kid, and it just been sitting there waiting for me. But when I saw it, I remembered my sister's invitation in the back of my head, who was now all the way in the Philippines. And I remember what she said, that if I ever had a free second to just open it up and read it. And there I was with a lot of free seconds. And um, I just remember having this strong nudge to pick it up and read it. And that kind of intrigued me because I knew it wasn't coming from me, because I hated reading books. I mean, I was not a reader. And this was just another big, confusing, weird book to me at the time. And an embarrassing fun fact about me is I don't think I had actually ever completed reading a book in my life up to that point. But yeah, so that goes to show how I felt about reading as a hobby, even out of complete boredom. But I just got to a point where I couldn't ignore that nudge anymore. So out of curiosity, whatever you want to call it, I just kind of picked it up and started reading from the very beginning. And immediately that same spirit and feeling from my sister's mission and farewell that I had been searching for returned to my heart again. And all alone in my room, I was just, tears in my eyes, and I couldn't put it down. I was just flying through chapters. My room was just like my little sacred grove that night. I've seen some stuff online lately, and just in talking with people, I think people underplay when the Spirit touches your heart in 2026. I think people just kind of, oh, your church is just kind of a church of warm, fuzzy feelings and no proof or real credible evidence and stuff like that. But in my experience, it is totally credible evidence. I mean, when the Spirit touches your heart, there's really no feeling like it. It's
It's
pretty
so
unique.
true. So true.
And I don't want to discredit that. And I want to stand up for that, because I've been hearing that a few times lately, and you probably have. Well,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, you know how it is. It's, oh, that came from, like, what's your proof that you got warm, fuzzy feelings while reading the Book of Mormon, you know? But I don't want to discredit that. That changed my life. And I've had so many other experiences like that. But
Yep.
yeah, anyways, and you know what's crazy is, even with that new added confirmation from the Spirit, fear, or whatever you want to call it, continued to keep me from acting on it and coming back. I mean, yeah, it was really hard for me for some reason. But even though I hadn't gone back yet, I now had a relationship with God. And it was stronger than it had ever been in my whole life. And I mean, to give you an example, instead of listening to whatever it was that I used to listen to, now walking through the halls at school, I'd put my headphones in and I was listening to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir walking to class, or driving to wherever I was driving. I was just listening to it all the time, or even before football games, I think. I mean, I was just listening to it as much as I can. And I think I just truly wanted that in my life, and I cherished what the Spirit felt like. Because for years, my whole life, I had felt and knew what it was like without it. And I don't usually like to say things like, I know this and I know that, you know? But here's one thing that I do know, that there is a difference between having the Spirit in your life and not having the Spirit in your life.
Oh my gosh. I know that too. I know that too.
Like, it's night and day.
It's night and day.
And in my experience, you can totally still be happy, and you can totally still be like a good person. And there's nothing wrong with, like, I guess, not going to church or not doing all the things and stuff, but it's not the same as having the Spirit in your life. And I think anyone who has experienced walking away, no matter how hard it would be, I think they would agree that having the Spirit in your life is just a different way to live. So to kind of go back a little bit to that pattern I was kind of going through with clicking snooze on my Sunday mornings. Um, One Sunday, everything changed. I mean, I don't know what it was, and this Sunday, my Sunday alarm went off, and that fear that I usually had for the months upon months before, it was just gone. I don't really know how to describe it other than it was just gone this Sunday. Maybe it was God throwing me a bone because I'd been trying so long or something. I don't know. But it was weird for me, and it was just kind of replaced with this quiet strength that wasn't my own. So I got up and I put some nice clothes on, and I remember before leaving, I started to get a little bit unsure and afraid. So I knelt beside my bed and prayed something like, God, please go with me today. I've been trying for so long. I've been trying for a really long time, and I'm all alone here. Sorry. And you know how long I've been trying to do this and that I want to. And I'm just afraid. So please send someone or just like make it okay somehow, I guess. And so then I got up and I left. And when I got there, I just kind of went and sat in the back because it just felt right. And I was just alone and sitting in the back of the chapel, sweating bullets from the nerves I was feeling. I was feeling really nervous. And I don't remember a thing the speaker said that day. I think I was just too much going on all at once. But yeah, I mean, I was just planning on leaving the second the closing prayer was over. It was just too much too fast, and I'd given it a go. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. This is just, I'm not comfortable here. And I mean, my keys were already in my hand and everything. I was ready to sneak out the side door before anyone could see I was there. And I mean, right as I stood up to leave, the closing prayer was said, and right as I stood up to leave, I felt this hand on my shoulder. And so I obviously turned around to see who it was, and it was just this sweet old man named Brother Evans. And I remember thinking he looked, this is bad, but I just remember thinking he looked so much like Mermaid Man from SpongeBob, which was like this old cartoon I used to watch. I was like, that is like a super weird thing, but like, holy crap, you are like the spitting image of this guy. And and he was just cracking jokes with me left and right. He was just so loving and so kind and goofy. And it just like melted all the walls I had built up. And after chatting it up with me and finding out how old I was and stuff like that, he told me that he happened to be my age group Sunday school teacher for second hour and that he wanted me to come with him. And I just remember being so comfortable with him that I was just like, sure, why not? Which was a miracle itself, given the status I was at before that. And he just introduced me to everyone, and they were all so kind to me. And I even knew one of them through football, and it ended up not being too bad of a day that day. I recently found a quote that has just become my glue because it reminded me of this and the way I try and live now. And that's preach the gospel at all times and, if necessary, use words. Because the light that radiated from Brother Evans, just it lit me up in a way that was so strong that I felt comfortable enough to keep coming back week after week until I think I just looked around one Sunday and realized that I was home. And it wasn't anything that he said. I mean, it's not like he just testified and proved it to me. It was just him living it, you know? And sharing this story makes me choke up and weep up a little bit because I don't know that I would have ever had the courage to come back after that Sunday. But through Brother Evans, God snatched me before I could turn away again. And, you know, just looking back at that prayer that I prayed beside my bed before going that Sunday, I can just see clear as day how God heard and answered my prayer. And I knew that he was aware of me. And Mermaid Man is my new official favorite superhero. Hands down.
love that so much.
And then a few months later, I graduated from high school, and I knew I wanted to go and be that for other people. It was just inside of me now. And I wanted to serve a mission. And like I said before, that was never in my plans. I mean, and now all of a sudden I wanted to go more than anything. And most of my friends growing up were either half Samoan or Tongan, and my sister's husband had actually just returned from a mission to Samoa too. And I had always just been so close to that culture and felt like it was a part of me in a way. And I told God I really wanted to go there. And I felt called there if it was his will, although of course I would have went anywhere. And then on June 19th, 2019, I was opening my mission call in front of my friends and family. And before going downstairs where everyone was waiting for me, I was just upstairs in my room, kind of having a little moment. Before going down, I was like, am I really doing this? Like, there's no backing out now, you know? And my brother-in-law, who had just gotten home, had given me this little keychain. And it was just this little Tusi Paia, which is the Bible. And it was just this little Bible keychain. I thought that was kind of interesting. He brought that for me, but he did. And I just kind of kept it. And I really looked up to him. So that had an impact on me, of course. And I just kind of told God, like, remember what I said? Like, I'd love to go there if it's your will, but I'll go anywhere. And then I just kind of like put that little thing in my pocket as like comfort or whatever. I don't know what I was doing, but yeah. And then I went downstairs and opened up my call, and I kid you not, I read that I had been called to serve in the Samoa Apia mission.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't believe it. Like for days, I had to physically hold that piece of paper and read it because I didn't believe it. And I kind of felt bad in a way because God probably got so many what the heck prayers from all my friends and family who were there who were going on missions too, because I know they had quite the opposite experience and most people do, you know? And oh man. And I hope nobody takes that as a formula to go where you want on a mission or for your desires or anything, because you'll probably get disappointed. This was pretty crazy, but yeah. And I was able to serve in Samoa for about 7 months. And then the global pandemic happened in 2019, COVID-19. And so I ended up getting reassigned to North Carolina. And there are so many stories that I could share from both of those places. And it wasn't easy for me to leave Samoa, obviously. But looking back, I needed both. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And keep in mind that when I came back to the church, I was basically already graduated from high school and ended up going on a mission very shortly after. And I went out hardly knowing anything. Like the church's doctrine on certain things and its history. And I mean, to share an example that I always tell people, I remember getting to the MTC and they, like, the teacher drew up the plan of salvation on the whiteboard for us to learn how to teach to other people. And I was just seeing it and hearing about it for the first time ever. And I was just in awe. I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. And and I know no 18-year-old or 19-year-old was out there and is a scholar by any means, but I was especially behind. And I mean, going on a mission, all I knew at that point was that I had my own testimony of my Heavenly Father's love and awareness of me, and that Jesus Christ was my Savior, and that his church was restored through the prophet Joseph Smith because of what I had experienced in daily reading the Book of Mormon. And I just wanted everyone I knew to know about it. And serving in Samoa and learning another language was just exactly what I needed at that time, because it kind of forced me to get more familiar with the very basics of the gospel, of course, because it's not like you can go out there and just start talking about whatever you want to say, you know. And then towards the middle of my mission, like I said, I was reassigned to North Carolina. And when I got there, everyone was on heavy quarantine and lockdown. I mean, nobody was going anywhere. Nobody was going outside. And so to keep us missionaries entertained, I got there and everybody was just it was kind of interesting because everyone was just kind of going crazy. I was just like, what am I doing here? Like, I should have stayed home. And everyone was just kind of to keep themselves busy, just studying up on things and for fun, for some reason, just diving into all these deep doctrine, hot takes, rabbit holes on certain things, just because it's fun to talk about amongst missionaries, I guess. And I was just this little baby out there with, I mean, I had just come back to the church and I had no recollection of anything these people were talking about. It was like, what are you guys talking about? And when some of these things were brought up to me, I became very troubled by a lot of it. I was like, wait, what? I'd never heard about it and it became very troubling to me. And it was crazy how quickly and confused and spiritually conflicted I became. Like, it's crazy how fast that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And despite all the miracles I had experienced and all the evidences of God's hand in my life, I mean, I just forgot all of that. And it was just like, what, wait, what is this? And I put it under the rug, I think, for a while because I was a missionary and I didn't really have time to be questioning things at that point. And, or at least just how I was feeling. And I just got to a point where I needed to talk to someone. I mean, it was getting pretty bad. And I didn't want to just talk to anyone though. Like, I wanted to talk to someone that I knew I could trust. And so I got permission to call someone from my home ward back in Utah where I became really close with before my mission. And his name was Jake. He's my guy. And I just shared with him all of my questions and concerns and stuff that I had recently learned. And he was just so calm and confident about everything that I shared. Like, he wasn't fazed by a thing I said. And it was almost like he had just been there before himself. And he didn't try and cover anything up or sway me into just shoving it under the rug and doing the whole, like, oh, just don't read into that stuff or ignore it thing. And I want to say real quick, anyone that has happened to where you feel like your questions or concerns about things were unaccepted or shamed, I'm truly sorry. Like, truly, I know so many people who had such a different experience I did when I was going through this kind of stuff. And I'm just eternally grateful I had someone I could talk to who wasn't that way. And although I do understand that we're all just doing the best we can, with where we're at and the understanding we have at that time. And I mean, if someone comes to you and starts unloading on you and you're not a scholar on that topic yourself, I mean, we're just doing the best we can. So I try and have grace for that. That can be tough stuff. And truly sorry if that's been your experience. And he told me that fairly recently in his life. He was in the same boat as me, and he was wrestling with the same questions I was wrestling with. And just so everyone who's curious was aware or maybe asking the same questions themselves, this was a specific issue with polygamy that
Mm-hmm.
sent he and I both reeling. And we had both come across several accounts of Joseph's first plural wife, Fanny Alger, or Alger, however you pronounce that,
Yeah.
and how Emma came to learn about their marriage. And that really
Same
troubled me.
thing troubled me. I learned about it in the Saints book. I don't know about you, but
No, I just heard about it and then I looked into a little and I was like, huh, and it was just a little bit troubling to me, you know?
yeah. Yep.
And for anyone wanting to know more about that topic and take both sides, not just kind of the rabbit hole route, I highly recommend listening to a podcast where they really dive into it and kind of share different insight on that to consider. You probably heard of it. It's the Church History Podcast.
Oh,
Or
yes, I knew you were gonna say that, and I'm so
yeah,
glad you did.
quick shout out episodes 12 and 17. I got those in my brain because those are very impactful to consider. I mean,
Yeah.
looking at both sides, there is some pretty compelling stuff to the faith aspect in it. Um, and anyways, so Jake shared with me that he tried to push it under the rug as long as he could. And I mean, this had been his life for about a year. And he told me he didn't tell his wife, he didn't tell anybody. So I don't know why, but he was just all alone with this thing. And I felt bad when he was telling me that, but like a whole year of that. And this led him to heavily doubt the church. And then it led to religion as a whole. And then it led to God entirely. And he was just, I mean, at rock bottom. And similar to the way I called Jake needing answers of help in my kind of dark moment, if you will, Jake got to a point, he said, where he needed to do the same. And so he was thinking of people he trusted because he wanted to talk with someone that he knew he could trust too. He had to like look them up on Facebook because it had been so long or something. It was like one of his old institute or seminary teachers or something like that. And he reached out to that person and just explained everything and asked if they could go to lunch or something and chat. And they eventually did meet up. And that person was just everything for Jake, the way Jake was everything for me. And after Jake told him his questions and concerns, the man, I think, told him something like, I'm going to answer your questions, Jake, but first I want to bear my testimony to you. Which personally, I was like, that's pretty bold. And probably has a very low probability of benefiting Jake, but okay. And Jake said that he bore such a powerful testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ to Jake that he was just in tears and told him something like, no, it's okay. I don't even need to know the answers to those questions anymore. I remember what the Spirit feels like now again.
Oh my
And
God.
and I believe again. And the man said to him, he's like, that's great, Jake. That's awesome. But now I'm going to answer your questions. And he was able to just chat with Jake and able to answer his questions in a way that clicked for him and worked for him. And if you want to know more about what they talked about, I challenge you again, go listen to those podcast episodes because that's kind of the gist of what they talked about. And yeah, there's just a lot there. But yeah, I mean, Jake told me that that experience was life-changing for him. And from there, he was able to move forward in faith again. And he told me that those thoughts of doubt, they actually didn't immediately just leave. Even though God had answered his questions and his concerns, each time he would go back and try and read the Book of Mormon again after being so far gone, I mean, he would just have that voice in his head, you know? The one that's like, it's all a hoax, dude. What are you doing? We've been here before and you're seriously back here. Like, dude, put that thing away. And Jake told me he just kind of pressed on because of that day. And every time that voice came, he just continued to press on until one day it just kind of faded away and it stopped bugging him. And he told me that he had actually never shared any of that entire story he shared with me with anyone in his life. I don't know if it was just like super personal to him or what, but I was the first person he'd ever shared that with. And the timing was just remarkable. I mean, he's a hard person to catch, I found recently. So the fact that I was able to just call him in the middle of the night and he picked up, I don't know the time difference off the top of my head, but he just picked up and we were able to have that conversation. And that changed my life too. And it was probably the first time and the last time I will ever see him weep and get emotional. He's not a emotional guy, really. And it was while he bore his testimony to me of these things now. And I was just so grateful that God had sent someone to me who had been through what I went through in almost the exact way I went through and was now helping me walk through it as I was just figuring it out myself, you know. And he, at the end, shared with me Lawrence's Stand Forever talk. And I've heard that referenced on this podcast a few times. So
Yes, it has.
I'm going to
And
shout that one out for however many times it's been shouted out now.
also, fun fact,
What's that?
I believe Lawrence Corbridge is going to be at our Come Back to Christ event happening
Warbridge.
this October. Corbridge.
Are you
So
serious?
I'm dead serious. So you might have to come.
That would be really awesome. That man has impacted me a lot. So I would love to meet
Same.
him.
Same.
You listen to it yourself?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Pretty good stuff.
Absolutely I have. It's very good stuff.
Yes. He shared that with me. And that, I mean, that answered a lot for me. And he shared with me that that experience he talked about in that Stand Forever talk was his experience too. And in feeling what the absence of the Spirit feels like, especially after having felt it in your life before. And though we shouldn't put our questions under the rug by any means, I don't believe that's a good thing. I mean, we need to lean in and we need to figure those things out. It's not going to work. Someone that I've talked to once, it wasn't about religion or anything, it was just kind of about life, kind of taught me that if you're holding a beach ball in the ocean and trying to swim and tread water and trying to hold down the beach ball the whole time, and just kind of the analogy of pushing something under the rug, it's going to be quite a struggle and quite a fight to make it to where you're trying to go, trying to hold this beach ball under the water, you know? And so I'm just a firm believer we need to lean into things like this and do the honest work that it takes to find the truth, whatever that is. And what I wanted to say about that talk, what that really impacted me was that there are primary and secondary questions that we're dealing with here. And they both do matter. But the secondary questions, they go on forever. And they
Go
will,
on forever.
there's going to be more and more and more as the days go on. It's not like there's going to be a shortage of those. And it's okay to struggle with some of those secondary questions, like whatever them, that's so okay. But first, we need to focus on those big questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those primary questions of, is there a God? And is he our Father? And is Jesus Christ the Son of God? And is he our Savior? And did Joseph Smith really see what he said he saw? And is he really a prophet? Like, those are big questions to get answers to. And if you don't have answers to those, you have to start there. And it's scary, honestly, how easy it is to forget those things, even when you do have a testimony of them. Like, the Book of Mormon is a powerful book to me for that fact alone, just the examples of how easy it is for people to forget. I mean, some people like had crazy miracles. It's almost like, how could you forget? But then you live life yourself and you're like, it's actually so easy. And if you just don't keep up with things, then it's so easy to forget, regardless of whether it's religious things or just things about life or whatever you do. But
I want to add
yeah,
one thing here that
please.
first of all, it's so interesting how there's the parallel of like Jake being such an influence for you and your testimony. And now here you are sharing your story, and you're going to be such an influence for so many people that may be going through the same thing as well. And it's so interesting how things that may seem like just awful and like horrible things that we go through and so hard to get through, that those are actually like the foundation for us to be able to have a stronger testimony. Encountering hard questions is actually an invitation for us to turn to our Heavenly Father for answers.
100%.
And it's interesting how like Jake's dark night of the soul turned out to be your saving grace. And
Right.
now your dark night of the soul is now coming on the Comeback podcast and helping thousands of people who listen to this.
I sure hope so, at least. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
love that.
it's just every time I hear these stories on the podcast, it strengthens my own testimony. Like, you're so right. Uchtdorf says that we need a steady flow of spiritual experiences. And it is so true. Like, spiritual experiences of the past are not enough to keep our fire burning inside of us. And
Yeah.
I feel so grateful for that I have the opportunity to interview people on this podcast every week, because sharing like your struggles and how you were able to get through them and your hard questions and how it ended up being something, it turned into something amazing and a testimony strengthener. Like,
Yes.
that is a steady flow of spiritual experiences for me. And like, I think that's why it's so important for us to share, because just like you encountered those hard questions on your mission, like I'm sure you felt so like at a dead end. Like,
Oh,
what?
oh yeah.
Joseph Smith
It
did
felt like
what?
the end. Like it felt like the end, Ashley.
Yeah.
I thought I was gone.
Yes. And so somebody else feels that way. Someone else right now is feeling that way. But on the other side of that is actually a more refined testimony, more strengthened testimony. And I feel like it's our responsibility to help people to understand that hard questions are just an opportunity to take a deeper dive into your faith.
It is an opportunity, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not
Yep.
something to be afraid of. And I think, I don't know if it was just culture of the past, but I've heard experiences where people that used to be the norm was just don't ask questions and don't do that. And
Yeah.
glad we're going away from that because,
Yep.
like I gave that analogy of, just imagine trying to swim across the ocean with this beach ball and trying to keep it under the water this whole time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just like not there. Like, it's
Right.
real. It's there. And you got to lean into it and you got to do the work that it takes to find the truth.
Now we're scrolling through our phones and we encounter like everything there is to encounter, and it's like kids these
Yep.
days, they have to make a conscious choice to choose the faithful response. Like they are constantly bombarded with, like, back in the day it was like, don't look at anti-Mormon materials,
Yes.
that is bad,
That's
anti-Mormon
bad.
materials. And now it's like scrolling through your phone, every other video is like, you know, the
Like,
girls camp
there.
podcast and John DeLynn and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And so now it's like you have to make a conscious choice to choose faith and to choose to understand these concepts on a deeper level. And I think that, I mean, stuff like that, it does make you feel icky inside. Like if
Super.
I'm, yeah, like if I'm going down the rabbit hole on the ex-Mormon stuff, like, which I actually don't ever, because I just don't like the way it makes me feel. And so people saying like don't look at that stuff, I think it's them saying like it makes you feel ew, like you don't, the
Yeah.
gospel is so
Unpack.
bright. Yes, like the gospel is so bright and it's so light, and the fruits of the gospel are so evident. It's what you were saying earlier on about having the spirit with you versus not. Like you can be
Yes.
happy and you can have a good life and stuff, but having the spirit with you is so, there's such a drastic difference, and you don't notice it until it comes back.
That is
Like
100% right.
you don't notice it's gone until it comes back. And so anyway, to like have to like look at that stuff and have the spirit leave is,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna tell my kids don't look at that stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
do you want the spirit to stay in the room with us? Because
Right.
if, like, yeah, it's, but I think that we can approach hard topics about church history in a faithful way, like Church History Matters podcast.
There's
Like,
some good resources out there these days, and I
yes,
love. Yeah.
yes, like Jasmine Rappleye, if you haven't looked at her stuff yet, oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Absolutely. And I'm very appreciative of all the work those people are doing, yourself included.
Yes. Well, thank you. But it's, yeah, like we can have hard conversations about things and keep the spirit with us. Like we don't have to go to, you know, down the ex-Mormon rabbit hole to understand challenging topics. So,
No, yeah. I 100% agree. And I think that's part of that talk, the Stand Forever talk, is he had some kind of assignment where he had to read through everything.
yes. Yeah.
And he said that just the absence of the spirit in doing
Yes.
that, he didn't want to go back there ever again. And I love that we're kind of talking about this because I think it's a topic that is something a lot of people are navigating through. Should I like look more into things or should I not? I would say if you come across things, definitely look into it and lean in. But if you're just like being curious and just wanting to do that, I mean, if that's how you want to spend your time, sure, but you're probably not going to leave feeling very good. Probably going to be pretty
Yeah.
empty.
Well, and
So,
also like turn to your heavenly father for hard questions. Don't
yeah,
turn to the internet. Like, what does God
yeah,
say about this hard topic? Like,
yeah.
and that was my personal experience. I've shared this before on the podcast, but I was reading the Saints book and I read this thing about like Joseph and not telling Emma about his wife or whatever. And I was like, I cannot reconcile this. Like, this is
Oh,
really hard. And my sister, she's just got home from her mission and she's like, well, why don't you pray about it? And I was like, yeah, that's actually a good idea. I'll pray about it. And I did. And I went and I prayed about it and I talked to my dad and we had this conversation about it. And he brought out one of my great grandma's journals. She practiced polygamy and
mhm.
her experience and how she did not want to do it, but she did it anyway. And then manifesto came out and she was so pissed about the
Yeah.
manifesto. Like, why would they tell us to do it if they're going to tell us we can't do it anymore? That doesn't
What
make
was the
any
point of
sense.
that? Yeah.
And then she just was so overcome by the spirit. And it was crazy how understanding her perspective and it just changed the way that I saw it. I was like, what if we just don't know? Like, what if Emma
Yeah.
didn't tell, or what if Joseph didn't tell Emma because he didn't want to hurt her and he felt called like he had to do this, but he didn't want to hurt her? Or what if this, or what if that? Like, we don't have the
Mm.
whole picture. We just don't know. And I
Yeah.
mean, what ended up being like something very troubling for me actually turned into like this foundational building block of my testimony where I was like, holy crap, this hard question is now something that I felt God answer my prayer. And like, sure, it's not going to probably stand in a battle of the comment section on the internet, but it was resolved for me in my heart by our Heavenly Father. And
Yeah.
that is a testimony builder for me.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. What you just said is getting that answer individually and like for yourself. And I think sometimes people will maybe talk themselves out of getting an answer to prayer or a miracle or something like that because it's not what other people's experiences have been. But you know what you know. And if the Spirit touched your heart, you can't deny that.
Yep.
And surround yourself or come across people who have had quite opposite experiences and stuff. I would just say hold firm to that because their experiences are their experiences, and God is so merciful and he takes everything into account, and their experiences are and outcomes of how they are right now is probably just because they've had so many negative experiences with the church and so many non-answered prayers and so many of those things. And so I just think that if you can just be so loving and graceful to everyone and not, I guess, yeah, I just think it's so important because everybody's going through their own thing. They're all on their own journey. And it's just so important to walk with each other through it and to just help each other along the way. That's the whole gospel.
Yes,
And
the whole point.
yeah,
We're all just walking each other home.
100%. And I wanted to add kind of a topic change really quick.
Yeah.
As I was scrolling through my notes that I made for this podcast, I hope I don't sound unrelatable by any means, because I understand that a lot of my experiences have not been some people's experiences. I mean, I've experienced some hard to explain, hard to put words on miracles. And I just hope I don't sound unrelatable to anyone listening because there have certainly been moments in my life where the miracle I pleaded for and begged for was not my experience. Where I pleaded with God for something and he said no. And I've recently had to learn a lot about the Father's will versus my own in my life and what that truly means, especially when things don't make sense and especially when things are hard. And honestly, though, those are the moments where I feel I've truly come to know my Savior deepest because he was a man of sorrows. And because of that, I wouldn't change how things went. You know, hard times, confusion, unanswered prayers, the waiting are all things that enlarge your soul and bring you closer to him and prove your faith. And you hear it all the time that that's where you really learn and grow, and that's the whole point, and it's true. you
Hmm.
know, and a word that I now live my life by is stay. It's kind of like my little mantra for myself. I write it everywhere to give me reminders because that is so important, like me and you have talked about. Because I'm a former college athlete and you have to learn like this crazy playbook, and there's so much to remember. And I stopped playing only a couple months ago and I don't remember a thing. Like it doesn't have to be like just church related stuff. Like it can be anything. I think our brains just like we don't retain a lot. So we need to be reminded, you know? And that word stay is so important to me because like you were saying about earlier, faith is a choice and you can totally choose it. No matter your circumstances or no matter your questions with the secondary or even primary questions if you're struggling with those. And where that came from for me was in watching The Chosen. That is my TV show, by the way. You can walk in
It is
on
a
me
good one.
on like a Friday or Saturday night and like, what you watching, Cade? I'm watching The Chosen. Like it's my show. And oh man, it came from one of the earlier episodes. Eden had a miscarriage while Simon was out doing missionary work with Jesus. And that was just devastating, obviously. And in later episodes, there's Rama and Thomas, I think it was, who were about to get married. And Rama made Thomas promise because of what she had heard had happened to Eden and Simon and what that did to their, I mean, that shook their faith up. Like, that's tough stuff, you know? And she made him promise something that was revealed in later episode when she was actually stabbed by a Roman soldier and was dying. Sorry to give spoilers away for everyone who hasn't seen that far, but oh gosh, I probably just blew it. But um, she was dying, and her last words, Thomas came up and ran and was just devastated, obviously. And her last words to him were, "Remember what we talked about. Stay with him. That's all I want." I think she knew she was going. And that's the last words she wanted him to know was stay with him. That's all I want. And Jesus comes running back, and Thomas obviously pleads with him, please heal her, or please take it back. I remember him saying that a lot. Take it back. And rightfully so. I mean, these are the people that have been following Jesus in the streets day in and day out and just watching him perform miracle after miracle. And Jesus just looked at him and said, it's not her time. And I love you. And I'm so sorry. That's tough stuff. I mean, that's a secondary question of its own. Why did God not do this for me when he does it for other people? You know? And I've thought a lot about that. And that's kind of an example of where the choice to stay and the choice to keep your faith in Christ is so vital. Because especially when things don't go your way or they don't make sense, it's so easy to just fall into this mindset of not believing anymore or talking yourself out of the miracles you've experienced or the prayers that have been answered and experiences you've had. And that choice is just beyond powerful. And I've felt that in my life when things don't go the way I want. Um, and to share a quick quote, real quick, I just think it depicts this beautifully. It was from Elder Holland, bless his heart. And it reads, the work of devils in darkness is never more certain of defeat than when men and women, not finding it easy or pleasant, but still determined to do the Father's will, look out upon their lives from which it may seem every trace of God had vanished, and asking why they had been so forsaken, but still bow their heads and obey. And I just think that's beautiful because it truly can feel like you are forsaken and God had forgotten about you, or he's not answering your prayers, whatever it may be. But to still bow your head and obey and stay, because answers come in time. They do. They just do. And if they don't, they just kind of fade in importance, which has also been my experience, which I just loved about that Stand Forever talk.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm okay to end there. Just
Okay.
the decision to stay and the importance of that. Yeah.
I love it so much. Well, Cade, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been an incredible 5-star episode. So,
Thank you for having me.
yes,
Been
absolutely.
awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Cade. We'll see ya.
Thanks, Ashley. Have a good one.
Surf Clothing is one of our favorite brands. They have been supporting us since the very beginning. We love them so much. I think one of the things that I like about Surf so much is that my husband is literally obsessed, and I brought him in here to share his experience with Surf Clothing. So, Jesse, tell us.
I love Surf Clothing. This is the best shirt that I've ever owned for church and professional purposes. It's got four-way stretch, which makes it really nice because not all the time I'm at my desk. Oftentimes I'm moving and out and about. So it's really nice to have a flexible shirt that moves with me. I know that it's got a mesh collar that I love. I think the purpose of that is really to prevent stains, but it's also super comfortable. It's way more comfortable around my neck. You know, if I'm at church or in business meetings with a tie or whether I don't have a tie, it's really comfortable. It's got arm vents, which I love because I'm kind of a bigger fella. It helps me so that I can be a bit breathable, and I love it.
And also, you can get 15% off a shirt from Serve by using the code COMEBACK.
A lot of people have asked us how they can support the podcast, and we have created a Comeback Podcast merch line on our website, www.comebackpodcast.org. All of the money made from the merch goes right back into the podcast. So if you are interested in supporting the podcast and you want to purchase some merch, we would love it. Check it out. Thank you so much for being a supporter of the Comeback Podcast and listening to our episodes. It would mean so much to us if you would like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps other people be able to find us, and we want to share this message to everyone.